Hey, what's up? My name is Daniela and welcome to a new video. Today I have a very exciting video to film because I have a new original tag. So I've already done 2 original tags in the past and I've had a lot of fun with it, and yeah, it's time for a new one. So this tag is called All About the Titles book tag, and as the title suggests, pun not intended, we will be looking closely at book titles, and in this tag we won't be listing just some random books that fit the prompt, but we will be listing our favorite books that fit the prompt. So in a way it's also a recommendation video. So yeah, I will be choosing some 5-star books that fit the prompt, some books that I absolutely loved. I had fun shuffling the books within the prompts a bit so that I can fit my favorites, but without any further ado, let's look at the 10 questions in the All About the Titles book tag. So number 1 is a book with a one-word title. So for this one I chose Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. I absolutely had to fit in this book because it's one of my absolute favorite stories. It's one of the most comforting and cute and sweet stories I've read. So as you probably know, this is a young adult graphic novel series and we follow 2 boys who meet in high school and they fall in love. So this book has a really sweet romance and coming to terms or like discovering your identity. And it also has an amazing diverse friend group and also some heavy topics, but I absolutely adore this series, so yeah, it had to be here. Number 2 is a book with a phrase in it, and for this I chose An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. So this is an adult light sci-fi book and we follow a bunch of 20-somethings who accidentally go viral when these mysterious statues start appearing around the world. Our main character is April May, who is a bisexual disaster, and she's grappling with this sudden fame and also with what do these statues mean and want, because she can accidentally becomes the spokesperson for this weird force. So I think that this book is the perfect combination of sci-fi elements and also contemporary story with its commentary on social media and friendships and being in your 20s. This is a duology. I loved the second book as well, and I've already read this book twice and I loved it both times. So, you know, that's some proof that I really love it, because with some books maybe I don't love them as much when I reread them, but yeah, this is a very fun series that I would highly recommend. Prompt number 3 is a book with a sentence in the title. So for this, I mean, I just had to choose a book from the series, and it's a book from the Brown Sister series, Take a Hint, Danny Brown. I could have chosen any book from this series, but I still loved this one like a little bit more than the other 2, although all of them are 5 stars. So yeah, this is book 2 in the Brown Sister series, and in each book we follow one of the sisters. It is an adult romance series, and in this book we follow Dani, who is a PhD student, and it's about her romance with Zaf, and it's also about anxiety, work-life balance, grief, and just a bunch of interesting topics. But it's also hilarious, sexy, and just overall amazing. Oh, and it has the fake dating trope, so that's usually fun. Prompt number 4 is a book with an unusual word in the title. So with this one I had a bit of trouble coming up with, you know, a book I loved that also has an unusual word in the title. And in the end I settled on Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. So yeah, we can argue it kind of fits. So this is one of my favorite books of last year. It is an adult sci-fi that takes place in space, and there are 2 timelines, and we have this astronaut who wakes up in space and he doesn't know what's happening. It seems that he's alone in there, and then the second timeline is his past before he went to space, and he slowly remembers what happens. So I like that we got these 2 timelines, so you know, it wasn't all in space, so there was this nice balance. And yeah, what I loved about this book the most was like the scientific bits. That was really fun, even for someone who doesn't know that much about science. I really enjoyed that, and we also had an amazing friendship and just banter between characters. I also really loved that. Obviously a lot of tension and stressful situations because, you know, shit happens in space when you're trying to survive. So yeah, this book was a wild ride and I loved it. Oh, and there are also some bits about like linguistics and language based on music, which I found super fascinating. So yeah, lots of interesting things in this one. Number 5 is a book with a name in the title. So actually a bunch of books on my list have a name in the title, but for this one I picked Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So I think this is Taylor Jenkins Reid at her finest. I have read a bunch of her books and I think that this one is the best. So this book is about a fictional band that was popular in the 70s in Taylor Jenkins Reid's world, and it is told in the form of interviews. And what I loved about this book is that, for one, I absolutely love classic rock and, you know, the 70s ambience. So the atmosphere was interesting to read about, but what I loved most about it was the characters and their dynamics. So basically we learn a lot about how the band got together. So first there was the Six, the band, and then they started working with Daisy Jones. And, you know, it was pretty dramatic. So eventually in 1979 they split up and nobody really knew much about it. And now, after all these years, someone is trying to find out the truth. But the fact is that everyone views the truth differently, and also because it's a rock band in the 70s, obviously there were like a lot of drugs and stuff, so some things might be a bit hazy. But anyway, this book was such an interesting study of the characters and their relationships, and yeah, I enjoyed a lot of things about it. I need to reread it because, yeah, I've only read it once. People say that the audiobook is amazing. I have read it only physically and I might reread it physically again. But yeah, this book was amazing. I also love the cover, like, wow. Number 6 is a book with a made-up word in the title. So this prompt was also a bit tricky for me, and yeah, I had to do some searching in my Goodreads, but then I found the perfect one, and that is Nevermore by Jessica Townsend. So this is a middle grade fantasy, and I don't read that much middle grade, but when I do, I usually tend to enjoy it because, you know, I pick some that come highly recommended, which was the case with Nevermore. So in this fantasy series we follow Morrigan, who is supposed to die on her 11th birthday, but then she is transported into this magical world where she has to go through some trials to be accepted into this secret society. So this book was very fun and very whimsical. I think there was a talking cat, right? So that's always a plus. I really enjoy it when books have trials in them. So yeah, this was a fun ride. I really need to continue with the series. I already own the second one, but I really want to reread the first one and then continue in the series. From number 7 is a book with a pun in the title. So I think that in this case, cozy mystery readers have the advantage because there are a lot of puns in that genre. Also some romance. I'm afraid that my pun, or like the book with the pun I chose, is a bit weak, but I chose Finlay Donovan is Killing It by El Cosimano. So this book is quite original because it's basically a thriller, but not your typical thriller. It's a comedic thriller. So it is very fun and over the top and far-fetched and ridiculous at times, but you know, it's a really fun ride. So we follow our main character Finlay, who is a struggling writer, and one day she's plotting her new book in a public place out loud, and the book has murders and assassins in it, and then some woman overhears and she thinks that Finlay is an assassin and she tries to hire her to kill someone. So Finlay is struggling with her career, but she's also recently divorced and she's struggling to take care of her kids and struggling financially, and her ex-husband is not making it easy at all, and Then she also has a babysitter named Vero, and they kind of teamed up with the new situation they get tangled with. So as I said, it is totally over the top and unbelievable at some parts. There's also a kind of a love triangle, and one of the guys is a cop, and then it gets really unbelievable. But you know, the most important thing is that it's a super fun ride. I've already read the second book. I loved it a bit less than the first one, but anyway, I'm going to continue with the series. And you know, at any rate, the first one is amazing. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that for a fun read. Prompt number 8 is a book with a title that describes it well. So for this prompt, I chose one of my favorite books, and that is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. So obviously this is a classic about the Bennet family and another group of people who have a quite different social standing, and it is, you know, the best. You have the great romance in it, and you have some iconic moments like the proposal, and you have a lot of humor in this one, and you know, it is definitely worth reading if you haven't read it. And I always loved the title as well, because you know, Pride and Prejudice, you have the alliteration there, and also it does describe the book really well. You can like discuss it endlessly. But yeah, for me it's like Elizabeth had some Pride and Prejudice, and so did Darcy, so it was just this blend of Pride and Prejudice all around. At this point I have read all of Jane Austen's novels, and this one remains my favorite one. So yeah, it had to be on this list. Next we have a book with a title that doesn't describe it well. And for this one, I had to cheat a little bit, because I just had to fit in another one of my favorite books. And you know, it is a little cheat, but also I can kind of explain. So yeah, I chose Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. So I say that it doesn't describe the book well, but it actually does. But you know, in the literal sense, it can count, because Eleanor is definitely not fine. So as I've said, this is one of my favorite books. This is an adult contemporary about a character named Eleanor. So Eleanor is 30, living alone, very lonely, doesn't have any friends, and she has a very strict routine, and she tells herself that she's completely fine, but she is not. One thing, she is very lonely, but she also has this childhood trauma that she has suppressed, and basically she doesn't remember it, and throughout the book she is slowly remembering. So this book does get heavy. There are quite a few content warnings that I would check out, but it is also hilarious at some points. So basically Eleanor questions the society, or you know, just comments on the society and how ridiculous some things are, and she gets into a lot of kind of awkward situations, but then she also finds a great friendship and some nice things in life. I've already read this book twice and loved it twice. It's heartwarming, heartbreaking at parts, and also funny. So yeah, for me, again, a book with a perfect blend of things. And lastly, we have a bonus prompt. So since this tag was all about the titles and we are on Booktube, name a Booktube channel with a great title, and also tag your friends. So my favorite title of a Booktube channel has to be Drinking by Myself, which is run by Emma. I love puns and plays with words, so this one is just perfect. So I'm going to tag Emma and also a lot of other people. So yeah, I would love if you did this tag. Also, don't be obligated if you don't want to. And if you're not tagged, also feel free to do this tag. If you do this tag, don't forget to tag me on YouTube or anywhere on social media so that I can watch and reshare. But yeah, that's the all about the titles book tag. Like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more, talk to me in the comments, and I will see you next time. Bye!